What is up, RotoGrinders? NFL Pick 6 show, week number 9, sponsored by Thrive. Usual suspects, two of the sharpest minds in all of DFS, all of fantasy football. Rich Hribar, sharp football analysis. John Daigle, 4 for 4, and bet spurts. Daigle, man, we got a 10-gamer this week. 10 games. 10! We're down to 10. A lot of teams on bye. Some good teams on bye. Well, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, Giants, San Fran, Pittsburgh. But the bigger deal is, no quarterbacks again, or not no quarterbacks. We're missing some of our prize quarterbacks because Thursday night, Philadelphia versus Houston. Sunday night, Tennessee versus Kansas City. Baltimore versus Saints on Monday night. Of course, we talk main slate, but that means no Jalen Hurts, no Pat Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson. All right. Just want to get that out there. People understand the lay of the land as far as this slate. They should know it's week 9. You're probably not tuning in for the first time. What's up, Daigle? How are things in your world? Do you have any thoughts as far as the trades? Anything that's going to impact week 10, week 9? We care about this week and this week only. It's DFS. Any overarching thoughts as far as the trades? It felt like a really busy trade deadline.
It was busy in the sense that people call themselves busy because they don't account for time. Things happened. I really don't think many of them mattered. The defensive trades actually were probably the most impactful, honestly. So, it was an interesting day. And another week, last week in DFS, where a combination of the 50+% chalk and sprinkled in single-digit players hit. On DraftKings in most small field and large field tournaments, it was a combination of Garrett Wilson. The Millie Maker threw in Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin. No Zach Wilson, no Patriots run back. So it just has seemed to be every single week. I think Reeves hinted at this last week too. The chalk and whatever combination, whatever single digit player you can throw in there. So we'll keep learning. We keep growing.
Yeah, Rich, the Galaxy Brainers, they're having a rough season, man. It's not working out for them.
Yeah, the GPP bros.
Yeah,
it's not been good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. But the thing is, though, when you're a GPP bro, when you're a Galaxy Brainer, all you got to do is look, you hit 1 week, then you make up for all the losses. That's like, I know I'm kind of making a joke about it, but it's actually true. Like, you just hit that 1 week, and who cares? You're supposed to lose. The thing is set up to lose money. There's also a rate.
There's still 10 weeks left, too. The GP bros can fight back. You just need that one, right? That's like you said. You just need to hit that one.
Yeah.
AJ Brown wasn't even in like large field wins. You didn't even need him last week because of what running backs allowed you to do. It allowed you to pay mediocre wide receivers that also got there. So yeah, it's been a wild year.
Yeah, listen, 8 people scored 3 touchdowns last week. So
yeah. The chalk combined for 9 touchdowns at running backs.
Yeah, I mean it was a wild week, man.
But it was fun. Listen, we've been complaining about scoring for 7 weeks, so we can't push back on it. We finally had touchdown scored.
So this time last week, I was thinking, man, I hate this slate, and then I don't like my lineups. But when Sunday finally rolled around, if you guys are listening to us on the recording, this is Wednesday night. We do it Wednesday night. Thanks for those that are listening live there on the YouTube. Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. You got to subscribe just to watch the NBA shows. Watch us tilt. I'm surely there's some crossover. All the sports. Subscribe here to the RG channel. But the point I'm making here, Rich, is like last week, finally when Sunday rolled around, and like it's an information flow that it's whatever we say on Wednesday can change on a Thursday, can change on a Friday, yada yada. But I really liked the slate Sunday. So I'm looking at the slate this week, the 10-gamer, Rich, and what has to happen for me to? I don't like it right now. What has to happen for me to like this on Sundays? Is the news flow going to change?
I don't listen, man. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think there's too many plays. I need to narrow down the plays on this slate. So maybe you guys can help me.
Okay, yeah, we'll have that conversation. Maybe John will meet us in the middle. He's just right as far as how he feels about this slate. I'll tell you what I don't feel good about. You guys wouldn't know this. You wouldn't understand because you don't watch Red Zone. Because I don't know. But 8 games in the early slate and 8 and 2 is the breakdown. What are we doing?
That's ridiculous. Yeah,
outrageous. I'm going to write an email and a letter.
And that Rams Buccaneers game definitely is nowhere close to where people, the schedule makers, thought it would be.
If I told you Rams Bucks were playing at 2 months ago, whatever it was, what would you have put the total on that game?
Oh, like 52.
More than 42. Yeah.
I saw the number and I'm like, man, it's depressing.
And rightfully so. I understand, like, we're still hoping for a little bit of luck. We think regression maybe will eventually happen for Tom Brady here at this career low touchdown rate. But even after last week, Leonard Fournette didn't have a carry after the first drive of the third quarter. And Todd Bowles after the game came out and said they actually want to work on establishing the run more. This is a team that's creating the league's lowest yards before contact. They're just not built to run the ball because their offensive line is so banged up. So a little bit of disaster in Tampa Bay right now.
Yeah, and John, in a vacuum, obviously the Pick Six show, we pick 3 games. We focus on 3 games, break them down from all sorts of angles. If you would have peeked ahead at the schedule and you'd have definitely circled, like, yeah, we're going to pick LA and Tampa. Like, we're talking about that for sure. That wasn't even like the 4th or 5th or 6th. Well, maybe it was 6th. I don't know. You tell me. As far as our 3 games we ended up settling on, or you picked for us.
There are definitely plays we can play in that game, but we're waiting on Cooper Kupp. We need to see honestly, Chargers Falcons, I think, is the one that people may be shocked I didn't highlight here, because we're also waiting on a lot of injuries. And also, like, the Chargers are so bad on run defense. Like, we're not here to talk about Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley. Like, let's just move on.
Listen, CPAT is back, baby.
Yeah,
maybe he's back. Yeah.
Well, he trotted out the tunnel. He said he's good to go. You're not believing it. It was straight from his mouth. You're not buying
maybe we could play CPAT. I don't know. Why not?
I guess Atlanta read the rule book last week and they realized you can pass. Did you guys see that? They passed the football.
Yeah. That's why Kyle Pitts' 32% target share really doesn't matter. We're really trying to project if Marcus Mariota is going to throw it 28 times.
I mean,
we still couldn't get Drake London targets. So
nope.
Well, we can't have them both at the same time. We still can't have our cake and eat it too.
That was a wild game. Like, one of my bigger fades last week was DJ Moore. So good Lord, how tilting was that?
Honestly, for 3 quarters, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then he just went nuts at the end of that game. Even dropped a long pass too. He had like a 20-yarder he dropped. And Phil Walker missed him on a long one too. So I mean, yeah, he could have been even worse. But man, holy moly, what a throw that was, and what a dumb rule the helmet thing is.
It wasn't even people call it a Hail Mary. It wasn't a Hail Mary.
No.
Like, it's the Falcons defense was playing too shallow on the last play of the game. DJ Moore just beat him in a fly route.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, he did. I mean, Phil Walker rolled left against his body and threw that thing 67 yards in the air. Like, when he lets it go, DJ Moore is like kind of even with 2 Falcons, and man, no, what a throw that was. And
it was the most air yards Next Gen Stats charted since they started charting air yards in 2006. 62 yards in a single throw.
Yeah, it was a hot throw, and then Eddie Pinheiro bricked it. A lot of people blame DJ Moore, but listen, if I catch a 67-yard bomb, like, I'm gonna be going nuts too.
You should be.
You gotta make that field goal the 30-yarder in overtime, though.
Right.
That's on Pinheiro. You gotta make that one.
I'm not like a DB coach or anything, but like, how do you let him get behind you? I know it was kind of sort of even, but like, just stand at the goal line. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't like a Hail Mary. It was they were trying to run a real play because there was like 20 seconds left. So they were trying to run a couple plays. And it was kind of when Phil Walker rolled out is when it kind of broke down. You saw the same thing happen with Heineke and Terry McLaurin a little bit at the end of that Colts game, where it was a little bit of scramble drill involved into it too. But DJ Moore is going to be back again this week because DraftKings doesn't care about his price.
I feel like it's disrespect because they were disrespecting Walker's arm. I feel like that could have been part of it. They just didn't think he could throw it behind him. But maybe. I
mean, dude, no, Daigle just laid it out. Nobody's made that throw.
Yeah. Literally, no one just made that throw. Listen, and in a world where we have 2 decisive teams in both conferences, Eagles, Bills, who are literally the only contenders in the NFL right now, give me the Panthers. Let's see it happen. Get them to the playoffs. Let's wreak havoc on 22 NFL. That's okay.
That was our moment last week. We needed him. I was pulling for him. I wanted first place Panthers for sure.
Yeah.
Is that why you're saying all these trades don't matter? It's going to be the Eagles and the Bills, and that's that?
I mean, the Chiefs are pretty good still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because the trades didn't matter.
Anybody.
No one wants to talk about Chase Edmonds mixing into 3-headed timeshare in Denver. No. Whatever. He got traded, him and Zach Moss, like with 5th and 6th round picks. They were literally afterthoughts. They just threw him in to make the trades even. It's like the fantasy football trade. when your league mate says, I'll take that guy who I'm trying to get and this warm body. Chase Edmonds is the warm body who went to Denver.
Yeah, it's never too early to talk about Calvin Ridley's ADP next season, but
it is too early, as a matter of fact.
Yes. I was not expected to talk about Dynasty in week 9 of the season.
People are probably asking. I'm sure they're asking you guys. They want to know, right? I imagine it's a hot topic.
That and James Mitchell or Brock Wright for Dynasty. It's like I was not prepared for this.
Oh, listen, well, James Mitchell is a baller. I want to talk about James Mitchell, not for particularly the slate, but dude is a Wildcat quarterback. I mean, he was a Wildcat quarterback. He played running back. I mean, he's Taysom Hill. You guys all love Taysom Hill. You got James Mitchell now, man.
Get excited.
Don't say you all. You like Taysom Hill too. Just admit it.
I don't. He stands for everything I'm against. The Alvin Kamara touchdowns are what I want. We got there last week.
You believe in the destruction of tight ends in fantasy football, though.
That's true.
Taysom Hill is here to burn it to the ground. He represents all of us.
If he's gonna facilitate change, then I'm all for that.
Yeah.
It's a good segue, by the way, because this is the first game. The first game in the docket is the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. 49.5 is the total. Packers are 3.5 point favorites on the road here in the Dome. Of course, Hawkinson was traded away from Detroit, so Brock Wright and James Mitchell. I've heard of Brock Wright. I don't think I've heard of James Mitchell.
He's a rookie, so that's probably why.
Okay. Isn't Wright does he have some draft capital? I feel like he was like a relatively high draft pick, or am I wrong in saying that?
No, you probably remember him because I think like at this time at the end of last year when Hawkinson missed like the final 5 or 6 games, like he came up a few times probably.
Yeah.
He never did much, but remember Hawkinson was out at the end of last year, so he had a little bit of burn. He's like a 4.6 40 guy for a big dude. I imagine he'll be the first man up, but James Mitchell is definitely the dynasty guy. That's a lot more fun. But we can't really count on 5th round rookie tight ends in like week 9 to like start getting like a burnout here. But pretty fun player if you go look at James Mitchell's like translation from high school to college and what he did. Pretty interesting guy.
Wright had I remember Wright because Silva's best finish in the SPY top 5. He had Brock Wright at Stone Men last year. And Wright now has 3 top 13 finishes in his last 12 appearances with the Lions. So he's spiked a couple games. He still only averaged 4.5 fantasy points. Like he's very, very volatile, but what tight end isn't?
Yeah, I know I played him before. Undrafted, by the way, so I was completely thinking somebody else. His player profiler comp is Hayden Hurst. Get excited. All right.
Everyone played Hayden Hurst last week, so why the hell not?
Not Terry Conklin? So the Packers, what are we doing here, Rich, with the Packers? Because like Rodgers is not doing his thing this year, but theoretically you don't have to, right? Just hand the ball off to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and just run on the Lions, and that's game over. Right? How are they going to score their touchdowns? 26 as far as their total. Pretty big number for the Packers this week. I don't know what to do with Rodgers. Those receivers kind of stink. I assume we're getting Lazard back this week. We'll see. But how are you handling the no, you don't think so?
Probably not.
Okay.
It was supposed to be multi-week earlier. I know he hasn't practiced yet this week, so stick a pin in it. But it sounded like it was going to be a multi-week injury when he first had it happen. So we'll keep an eye on that, but it is kind of like the elixir, right? Like the Lions are really kind of that magic fantasy elixir, so if the Packers really can't get there here, like when can we ever trust these guys? Packers now, they've scored on just 27.6% of their drives ahead of just the Steelers and the Commanders. But opponents have scored on 47% of their drives against Lions, the highest rate in the league. Everyone seemingly gets there. So if you were going to play Aaron Rodgers, I guess it would be against the Lions team that's allowed 5 QB1 scoring weeks over 7 games. They're allowing the highest completion rate in the league, the highest air yards per completed pass in the league, the highest yards per pass attempt. They're 29th or 26th in touchdown rate allowed. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to play Rodgers, I mean, like you said, we always like to have a little QB mobility, and this slate has plenty of quarterback plays. So I don't know if we'll get there in Rodgers, but, I mean, if you can't find a spot for Rodgers this week, you're probably not going to find many spots to want to play him the rest of the way out, because the Lions have been that team just to kind of circle for points for any player. Whether you have a tight end, you have a running back, you have a wide receiver, just play all your guys against the Lions.
Is he done? Rodgers done? You want to call it? 10 times?
No, I don't think so.
No. But what I saw the underdog report that said Lazard will practice on Wednesday. So, but I guess maybe that doesn't automatically mean he's going to play, obviously. But supposedly, according to LaFleur, he was practicing on Wednesday. But whatever. That's the reason why I assumed he was potentially back. But you guys know better than me. But I guess I just caught a bad report. Or maybe that doesn't mean he's going to be playing. Practice is different than actually playing in the game. John, Packers, what do you got?
Well, the past 2 weeks since Aaron Rodgers, who says a lot of things now, but said he wanted to simplify the offense has run through Aaron Jones. You even saw that, not so much a report, we saw it live, that Von Miller in the second half, when rushing Aaron Rodgers at one point, asked him, why aren't y'all passing? You're down by 2 scores. Like, what's going on here? Miller wouldn't extrapolate on that on Twitch live. He said he didn't want to start anything on that platform. But very clearly, they know, like, their offense goes as Aaron Jones goes because he is undoubtedly their most explosive player. And the Texans are the only team that have missed more tackles on running plays than the Lions this year. Lions have also allowed the 5th highest rate of 10-plus yard runs. Jones as well, a team high 15 targets the past 2 weeks and a season high 24 touches just that last game in that blowout. So I would imagine it's a game where they still engineer the offense, whether they're down by a lot or not, through Aaron Jones. And so that's the player to look at here. Romeo Doubs is still very interesting, especially if we think Lazard will be out, though, because I can't guarantee Romeo Doubs will catch the ball. Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Like, that's on you. If you play him, that's fine. But nonetheless, it is a terrific matchup for him. The Lions are the only team allowing a 60% completion rate on throws 10 yards, at least downfield. And Doubs has seen 16 targets in that range. He's just only caught 7 of them, unfortunately. The Packers, he also led the team with a 23% target share last week with Christian Watson banged up in game. We don't think Christian Watson will be back this week, along with Lazard as well. So, yeah, Aaron Jones, Doubs. I don't even know if I need to bring Aaron Rodgers along, to be honest, given the ceilings of other quarterbacks in this slate. But there's no doubt they are amazing plays in this slate.
I'm sure we'll see Big Bob be pretty popular at tight end this week as well. You know, no Kelsey, no Andrews, even if he were to play, because they're on Monday night. We saw, the last 3 games, Tunyon has 22 targets. He had the over 20% of targets last week as well. He's going against the Lions team. It's 30th in touchdown rate. He scored in, I think, every career game against the Lions too, which people love that stuff. We did get another 200-yard Derrick Henry game. So
nice call.
It doesn't hurt whenever Malik Willis only throws 1 time in the second half.
Well, that was the thing. When they announced Malik Willis as a starter, I even wrote up to us people were excited. I was like, this dude's not gonna have to throw the football at all. So let's not get all in on Malik Willis for sure.
Also,
9 in the box. How many in the box do they have for? Not that it mattered, I guess, but how were they not stacking it? Did they not know?
Well, how many Texans count? Like, the Texans could start playing run D with 14 defenders. I don't think it'd matter at this point.
The good news is they sacked Malik Willis and got 3 times and got an interception, only 14 dropbacks. But it doesn't matter because they had no chance against Derrick Henry. And then Dotcher Hilliard came off the bench and had 3 plays of 10-plus yards. It's like, well, whatever happens. It doesn't matter.
Yep. But I do think with the tight end slate being what it is, I think Tunyon's going to be pretty popular.
I'm running some stuff now. I realized I hit the wrong button before and I was running it incorrectly. But, yeah, I can see that for sure. Love picking on Detroit. I don't think people are going to want to play Rodgers, but you're right, Rich. Like, if you're ever going to do it, this seems like the spot to do so.
It's a great quarterback slate, though. I'm someone that usually goes with only 2 to 3 quarterbacks a week. And I'm looking at it right now and I'm like, oh, there are 7 guys I want to play.
Is one of them named Jared Goff? I'm guessing not.
No, negative. But at least we've seen again when this Lions offense is fully put together, and we'll see what removing TJ Hawkinson involves. But they're able to punch, right? When they have all these guys available, DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're able to scoot. They were ahead in that game. They were up early and big on the Dolphins because that's what kind of nuked Mostert in that game. But they are able to score points when they have their entire offense on the field.
They scored on their first 5 possessions, as you mentioned, in that game. They've totaled 3 points in the last 2 second halves against the Cowboys and Dolphins these past 2 games.
So I did run some optimals for tight end. We're talking about Robert Tunyon. It's kind of a mixed bag. No, there was no big number on one player, but the number one guy right now, Wednesday night, grain of salt, is Tyler Conklin. and then Tyler Higbee, all the Tylers. Then Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram, Robert Tonyan, Noah Fant, and a pinch of Brock Wright. So, yeah, man, it's a fun tight end slate.
Brock Wright, Stoneman on DraftKings, Robert Tonyan, I think only 5K on FanDuel, so touchdowns, that definitely matters. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that, and I'm sure we'll talk other stuff throughout the slate, but FanDuel as well, like Dawson Knox is another guy who's like 5K over there and just shooting for touchdowns. I don't mind doing that either. Are we assuming that it's not going to happen for DeAndre Swift? He's got 2 more body parts. He barely can play last game. Where are we at right now, Rich, as far as Swift potentially playing on Sunday?
Well, he only had 6 carries, and the head coach said that he gave him too many carries today. So
what's too many? Like 4, 5?
Not really bowling well. I mean, he basically was out there just running pass routes was kind of his role, and like he can still make some plays. But I mean, he's living just on touchdowns. I mean, it's a bummer. Because we know how electric DeAndre Swift is, but like he's living just on touchdown cachet right now. He has single-digit touches, I believe, in every appearance except for 1 this year. And it sounds like he's still not, fully healthy, or the coaching staff doesn't trust. And maybe it'll be the thing for the rest of the year, right? I mean, because we're now year 3 with DeAndre Swift, and he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So maybe this staff starts to just kind of, just not really give him the run out that we kind of always kind of hoped and dreamed that he would have, right? Because he's such a really good electric player, and he's so good at scoring touchdowns. But yeah, he's a real tough like DFS play because we have no idea like where his touches will lie. I mean, he could be a guy that ends up having like 3 touches probably, or maybe he gets like 12 or 14 and like you have a good run out, right? But like he's a real tough, like he's the definition of the GPP bro play.
Yeah.
And as one of the GPP bros who played him in Dolphin stacks last week, I can assure you, whenever you see Swift average over 8 yards per touch before he gets injured, and then you see last week he averages 3 yards per touch, like he's very clearly not healthy at all right now. So that's not a well I will be going back to.
John, I had some Dolphin stacks with Amon-Ra and Josh Reynolds running back, both kind of disappointing. Reynolds, I feel like he had a couple chances for touchdowns and big plays, and
he's pretty much Romeo Dobbs of the Lions. Yes. No, it's gonna come. No guarantee it ends anything, but it's gonna come. Yes.
Yeah, I mean the good thing at least with those ancillary guys like Reynolds and Khalif Raymond now is that team lives in 11 personnel, and removing TJ Hawkins from the equation like it only gives more insulation. Like those guys are gonna be on the field the whole game, so they're like still fine punt plays, right? I mean, I know Reynolds really isn't necessarily a punt; he's a little bit priced up, but you got like Raymond is 4K on DraftKings. Another solid target count. Like they're going to be on the field in a game where they're probably throwing. The only thing is always when you play the Packers, like the only thing you have to worry about is like overall play volume because the Packers are the slowest team in the NFL and they have no prerogative of like running up and down the field and scoring touchdowns at will on you.
You definitely need that pushback that we always talk about from Jared Goff, but it's another game that makes sense. Honestly, the Lions is 11 of Jared Goff's 12 passing touchdowns this year have come at home, and the Lions have averaged 36 points per game in 4 games at home compared to just 10 and 3 games on the road. And that does correlate with the games Amon-Ra St. Brown has been healthy for, which I think makes a very big impact. But at the same time, like it is sort of the cocktail Rich talked about where we could get a lot of points in this game.
Not a lot of plays projected. If you pull up Derek Hardy, the blitz game level factors, it's one of the lowest amount as far as projected plays. We're looking at 125.3. Get both these teams play pretty slow. Rich, I feel like every single time I watch Rodgers, like he just does everything to get the clock down to 1 right before snapping the ball.
Always.
He just bleeds the clock, which is obviously the more snaps, the more chance for fantasy points. I don't know how I feel about this game. There's other games that I feel a little bit better about, but the slate is what it is, and it's a 10-gamer. And you promised me some good plays, Rich. Give me you're stacking this game up.
But Lions. I mean, that's really it. You might not run a lot of plays if you're the Packers, but they're gonna be efficient plays.
Yeah,
they're gonna gain yards.
You could skitty stack Aaron Jones and Amon-Ra for sure. Who doesn't want to play Amon-Ra? Like last year, remember those last 5 games came without TJ Hawkins, and he averaged 11 targets and 8 catches. In his 3 full games this year, he's averaged 10.5 targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like the floor is not only there, but the ceiling is also a top 5 wide receiver on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, if you were one of those people pushing back the entire summer on the Sun God because of DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson being out when he had his heater last year, what's your pushback right now?
Yeah.
Because Hawkinson's no longer on the team and DeAndre Swift is barely getting on the field. And we saw he had another 10 targets last week when he came back. And, you're going to have games with the types of targets that Amon-Ra gets. He's a guy that needs volume. He's very much in like the Keenan Allen zone, right? Like how Keenan Allen like thrived his entire career, right? That's who Amon-Ra is. Like he's a guy that's going to need to get a lot of targets. He's not going to run a lot of downfield routes, so he does need to push double digits. And when those weeks you don't get a touchdown, you're going to end up with a lot of like 7 for 70s or 8 for 80s and stuff like that. And that's kind of what happened last week. But nothing was off kilter last week. 10 targets, right back in the same role he was in.
Packers have also allowed, where they're getting beat is the boundary. They've allowed the third most yards per snap on the boundary to wide receivers. And last year, the Lions increased Amon-Ra St. Brown's rate of routes from outside to 27%, up from 18% whenever TJ Hawkinson was injured. This year, he's at a career high 37% of his routes from the boundary already. That may even go up with Hawkinson gone. We don't know. So, like there's a lot of meat on the bone here for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I still think he's one of the best plays on this entire slate.
Yeah, I was thinking like game stack and how to build it, but I like your idea, John. Like that's Aaron Jones and Amon-Ra, and I'm good to go. I mean, of course, that's my favorite place to start. If you're making more than one lineup, you can get a little more creative, bust out that galaxy brain. But
Jamal Williams has averaged 18 touches in the 4 games that DeAndre Swift are limited and injured for this year. I'm open to Jamal Williams. If DeAndre Swift is out, we'll have to play it by ear.
What team did Jamal Williams play for? Before the Lions, what team was he on? You guys recall?
I'm actually so like embedded in this thing weekly that I forget about revenge games. And I know that revenge games are a RotoGrinders thing for sure. People love their revenge.
It's a DFS. We love the Monopoly and revenge games. Everybody loves a revenge game. I'm sure, Rich, we're not the only place you hear about revenge games. You hear them all over the place.
No, that's like, I mean, fantasy Twitter loves that type of stuff. I mean, Jamal Williams is the GPP guy though, right? Like he has 4 games with double-digit touchdowns, and then his games where he doesn't score a touchdown is completely worthless. Like that's the GPP play, right?
It's Aaron Jones.
It's I mean, he's been the RB 36 or lower in his games without a touchdown, but he has 4 games with multiple touchdowns. We like those.
Is he still leading the league in touchdowns, or tied, or up there? Close.
I mean, he's number 1 in the NFL. He's always tied for opportunities inside the 5-yard line. So he's got 10 opportunities inside the 5-yard line. Something that's probably not going to change. If they're down there, I mean, the Packers aren't a good run defense. So like, there's going to be opportunities here for them to run into some production as well. So I mean, he is the GPP guy though. If you're going to run it, if you're not going to go the Amon-Ra route, I mean, we like touchdowns.
Yeah. Game number 2. Let's talk about the Raiders. The Raiders at the Jags. We have 47.5 as far as the total. Raiders currently 1.5 point favorite. Traveling west to east, 1:00 game. Is that a thing, Rich? I'm sure like gamblers have done that. I know it's always a gambler's thing that they throw it out to West Coast teams. I know Vegas not exactly West Coast, but you know what I mean. West Coast time, close enough. 1:00 start. And I feel like there's been studies on this affecting lines and totals. This is not the first you're hearing of this. Is it real or is it fraudulent? Or I guess it's.
I haven't looked at it in a couple of years, but like it's mostly just like a lot of variance. There was an actual point too where Derek Carr was really good going to the East Coast. Like I specifically remember this.
Okay.
Like he had like a heater where like he had like a hot run out, but typically it's mostly stuff like where bad teams stay bad and good teams stay good.
Yeah.
And then also you'll have these other runouts too, where like the schedule makers will like piggyback games and teams will stay out on the East Coast. Like the 49ers do that all the time, where they'll stay out in a neutral location and then travel to the next place. I don't know who the Raiders play next week, if that's even on the table, but the Raiders in general, like, I don't know, the flu that went through the team, at the end of the week, I pushed off of Adams just because he hadn't practiced and, I was a little worried. But like they came out and just, even with the flu, accounted for like this complete no-show. I mean, Derek Carr completed 1 pass further than 5 yards downfield, just absolutely got flooded. They did nothing offensively. They they were just listless the entire game. It was the first time that they've been shut out since 2014. It's the flop lag spot. I mean, you see, like they opened as favorites in this game. So it's like, you get right back on while the disappointment is fresh in everyone's mind, because this game was the first game I kind of looked at and was like, oh yeah, this is the game. Like this,
It's hot.
Yeah, this one could be a lot of fun as well. So I mean, I like the Jaguar side more, but yeah, the Raiders are completely, like I said, they're the flop lag team this week.
Jump in there, John. As far as ownership, looks like the two most popular plays in this game will be the running backs, Jacobs for the Raiders, Etienne for the Jags. Whatever side you want to start on, feel free to go for it, John.
Yeah, well, we expect to get pushback. Jaguars have struggled, in particular in the red zone this year. They have the 9th lowest touchdown percentage inside the 20, but that's where the Raiders have allowed the 2nd highest touchdown percentage in the red zone this year. So we think we're going to get some points. And the Raiders have allowed the league's highest touchdown rate through the air. And Trevor Lawrence has 3 top 10 performances on the year, so we know he has a ceiling. We have faith in that. But more importantly, like Rich, towards the end of the week, I just kind of chalked up the Raiders to the flu-ridden season and said, okay, maybe they don't do anything here. And that's what happened. Saints were creating pressure at just 22% of dropbacks to opposing quarterbacks. Prior to that, 31st in the league. They got to Derek Carr on 41% of his dropbacks. He averaged just 1.4 yards per attempt under pressure. The Raiders didn't cross midfield until the 2-minute warning in the second half in that game. It was literally an absolute disaster. And so, again, flop lag, because this team, the Raiders offense, is still 4th in yards per drive, 6th in points per drive. Nothing tells us they're not still an efficient offense. They're in the toughest division in the entire league, which explains their win-loss record. But overall, like the way they move the ball, nothing's changed. They're still a top 10 offense in the league. And now they get this Jaguars defense we expect to push back on. So yeah, I like a lot of the plays involved. You touched on Josh Jacobs in a flop lag spot. Jacobs, since their bye 2 weeks ago, has 30 of the team's 31 running back carries. They don't even go to anyone else at all. And we expect this to be a high-scoring game. So there are just a lot of moving parts here you can go to. We don't know if we're going to get Darren Waller, even Foster Moreau after 6 catches last week. We've now seen the last 2 starts without Darren Waller. Foster Moreau has accounted for 62 of the team's 64 tight end routes. They don't even use another tight end. They just put him out there. And he got there in catches last week because Derek Carr was under siege. And so he just dumped it off literally at the line of scrimmage every time to Moreau. But Moreau is still alive with Devontae Adams if we expect points to be scored. So, yeah, there are a number of ways to play this game, honestly, and I love the game.
Rich, 2 questions. First of all, are you okay playing 2 running backs, against each other? I hear people say that all the time, and I think it also matters who the running backs are, obviously, and what they do and their roles. But I understand why people say it. But like I'm open to play Jacobs and Etienne in the same lineup. This is kind of the point I'm making. Like they both can have good games. I know it hinders their ceiling a little bit of a tick. And secondly, if you can only pick one, who are you picking?
Well, I mean, if you're going to do that, it has to be the archetype of running back like both these guys are, right? Like they're not sharing touches with anybody else. So They play in all modes of game script. So if you're going to play, 2 running backs in a stack, right? It has to be 2 guys like that because, you can do this inversely, right? Like you can do Lawrence, Kirk, Evan Ingram, and then run it back with Jacobs. And you're counting on, on the side of the ball where like the Raiders are ahead, they're using Jacobs as a runner. And then you're getting like that pass run out, right? That's typically how you see stacks built, right? But here you can do either way because no one's sharing any touches. I mean, you look at last week, Etienne had 27 touches. No one else really got involved. He's just like an explosive play machine right now. I mean, the past 4 games, he has runs of 30, 48, 49, and 49 yards. He like among all running backs now, he's 3rd in rate of runs over expectation, 4th in success rate, 6th in rate of runs to gain a first down or a touchdown, 10th in rate of runs to go for 10 or more yards. And then Josh Jacobs, his counterpart, is literally like right with him, like in every single one of those categories as well. So yeah, but if you're going to stack 2 guys, it's got to be 2 guys that aren't going to come off the field, that can survive in any type of game script as well. Now people might just point to what happened to Jacobs last week. Like that's not game script. Like that's just like the team just didn't show up. It really wasn't his fault. I mean, he had over 4 yards per carry. It's just like they did absolutely nothing as a team. It was a top-down problem. But yeah, you could play both those guys. I love the Lawrence call. Like he's probably my favorite streamer this week too. We talked about it last week, Dean, with Andy Dalton, right? Like it's the same setup. And Andy Dalton had another 17 fantasy points. And if the Raiders push back at all in that game, Andy Dalton probably goes well over 20 points. They've now allowed over 17 or more fantasy points to every quarterback they face. That includes Dalton, Ryan Tannehill, Davis Mills, and Russell Wilson on that list. Like, they're just a terrible defense that we can kind of get back on this Lawrence train. And, Lawrence is people aren't going to want to play him because he looks like Aemon Targaryen, and they just watched that dude's dragon eat Jace's dragon. So like, we can only have that. So
spoiler alert.
But no, and then I love the spot for Christian Kirk, because Christian Kirk is he had another 25% of team targets last week. Obviously, it was against Denver, right? This is the other thing about people freaking out about Lawrence. Like, the dude is playing the Broncos. Has anyone looked at the Broncos game log this year? Like, nobody's thrown the ball in the Broncos. Like, that's the wrong game to freak out. Like, 3 weeks ago when they played the Texans, you could freak out about what Trevor Lawrence was doing. That's cool. But like the London game, like, he had him in position to win the game. He made a dumb interception, threw a dumb interception in the red zone. But the Broncos made a lot of people look bad this entire season. Kirk gets that great rebound spot. The Raiders are getting absolutely smoked in the slot. They're allowing 10.4 yards per target in the slot. That's 29th in the NFL. League high 5 touchdowns to opposing slot receivers. So yeah, I love Christian Kirk. And then I brought up Evan Ingram too. He's in another spot, like a weak tight end slate, right? Like, Evan Ingram's just getting targets, and it's kind of what we can count on. Like, DraftKings has him at 3,300, which is insanely low, because he's 10th among all tight ends in the NFL in target share. He's 6th in routes run per drop back. He's just hanging around like that tight end 1 usage, but he's priced way down on DraftKings. And at 3,300, if you're to say, give me a guy that like inherently is going to get like 7 targets, like, all right, I'll throw that at the wall. And especially against the Raiders team that, are 23rd in receptions allowed to tight ends. They're allowing a league high 11% touchdown rate to tight ends. You've got a nice little double stack that you can run that's very, very cheap, especially on DraftKings. Like, those 3 guys combined on DraftKings are like $13K.
Assume no Waller. Ingram's 3-3. You like him over Morneau at 3-2?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't like home Morneau. I was thinking of Justin Morneau, the former Minnesota twin, and I want to put an N in there for some reason. Moreau. Okay.
Moreau.
Foster Moreau.
Moreau, we only played the last couple games because he was so cheap. It made sense. Last week, even, he was $100 cheaper than Juwan Johnson, who was, chalk pretty much in small field. So it made sense just to pivot once we saw Darren Waller was out. But Evan Ingram's the one getting targets, and now we see it's possible he scores touchdowns. So, yeah, why the hell not?
Favorite fringe player in this game, John? I'm looking at Renfro. Okay, he was on the field because he's been terrible all season long. But the week before, he had 57% snap count. He was on the field for 79% of the snaps, just not doing anything. What happened to this guy? He was like a reception machine last year, and now just kind of worthless.
Well, Mac Hollins showed up. That's why. Mac Hollins got 8 targets in that game instead. So, I mean, they can't support 2 or 3 wide receivers. Like, it's going to be 2. And last year, Mac Hollins did not exist. So whenever Darren Waller was out, that's why Hunter Renfrow averaged 17.5 fantasy points per game, because there's only one more player to go to. Now there's another option, especially one that has downfield prowess and Hollins. So yeah, there's no guarantee it's Renfrow. Not my favorite player. I honestly think this game's going to be so low rostered, given flop lag, given how unsexy the names are among other options we're going to try to eliminate for Rich as we continue to move on, that any stack you have, Lawrence, Kirk, Ingram, Carr, and Adams, and Moreau, it's just going to naturally be contrarian. So just play that, and that's okay.
And the fun thing about this game is you got like multiple leverage points, right? Like, you can leverage ETN with the Jaguars passing game. You can leverage
with Lawrence too. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the Josh Jacobs. If you want to call off Josh Jacobs, you can go back to Devontae Adams. There's all kinds of different ways to attack this game and make different kinds of runouts. And everyone outside of Adams and Jacobs is really cheap.
Yeah, you're going to get a cheap game stack and get a couple studs around it, which is kind of interesting. And how dare you, nothing sexy in this game, John. Marvin Jones and Zay Jones are both playing this football game. So, I mean,
you gotta get those 28 yards from Zay Jones anytime you can.
It's a revenge game for Zay Jones as well, if you guys want to keep that going.
Revenge for 3 yards per target.
Man,
but he should be happy because like the Raiders resurrected his career. Like there's no revenge. Like he should be congratulate them. The Raiders got him that bag this offseason.
He's gonna congratulate them by doing the same exact thing he did for the Raiders last year.
We got anything else here, boys? We moving on. I think we're moving on, right?
No, but it sounds like we both really like this game, and I guarantee you, no one's going to listen to us. It's going to go overlooked. Thus, definitely play players from this game.
I think the receiving game is not going to be played as much as Jacobs and Etienne. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Etienne's going to be really popular.
Yeah, just seems a little bit too cheap. 6.3K on DK, and Jacobs. I think that's a price hit, right? At 7.3, I feel like it is a little bit.
7.3 is a little bit. 6.3.
He was 75 last week, so a little ding.
Etienne should be 7.5. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and we've seen how, obviously they have nothing to do with each other, but chalk running backs on DK have been absolutely smashing.
DraftKings in general, we've talked about it. Like out of the two sites, and like they've typically in years past been the sharper of the two sites, but this year they have definitely dragged their feet on pricing players up. I mean, DJ Moore went up to 7K on Fanduel, like not even a full PPR site. They're like, we're going to jam him up because everyone played the hell out of him the last 2 weeks. And DraftKings is like, what we're going to do with DJ Moore? We're going to leave him at 5,800. And they've done it with Tyler Lockett. We've seen Tyler Lockett the whole season, Breece Hall while he was playing. Like Amon-Ra is like these guys, like they're not getting priced up over on DraftKings. Like they're just keeping these guys flat, and that's why we keep talking about the same damn players every week because they don't move.
Hey, what game is next?
Yeah,
go ahead, John.
This is the Pick Six Cardinals show. We should just put that on the title of the slate of the show. Also, it's frustrating. We'll get there eventually, but it's also another good matchup for DJ Moore. It's pissed. At least if he had tough matchups and make it harder, but it's another amazing matchup for him. Oh, I hate it.
He's getting another run out against the secondary where everyone's hurt.
Yep.
The third game here, the Pick Six show, Seattle, Arizona, on the Pick Six /Seattle/Arizona show. 49.5 is the total. Seattle is a 2-point dog here, game in a dome here in Arizona. I ran some optimals and a ton of Seattle's jumping up there. And again, Walker still popping, Metcalf still popping, Lockett, like you said, the price adjusting, but not enough. I think more than anything, we got to talk. Did you guys see the story of DK Metcalf having to take a poop in the sidelines? This is important stuff. Do you guys know about this?
I know he got carted off the field a couple weeks ago to poop, but did he actually poop on the sidelines?
No. So Kay Adams was interviewing him, and basically, I guess in Detroit is known for having a long walk to the locker room.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the game.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, no, I ain't walking. I can't make it. Basically, it's not going to happen. He had to poop, and Pete Carroll wanted him to poop in the sidelines, and he's like, I got too much dignity for that.
To be fair, only the second best poop on national television in the last calendar year.
That's true.
To Lamar Jackson's diarrhea in the middle of one of the greatest games ever played.
What a night on Twitter that was.
Island game of him walking to the locker room.
Island game, 70 points combined. Lamar Jackson has to run to the bathroom in the fourth quarter,
and then came back out and threw the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Like that game the game was so fire. What an incredible game.
It was the pandemic when football was fun. It was the best game ever.
And I think Larry Izzo, like former Dolphins, like they're also one of their coordinators or defensive guys or does something in the team. And I think even Pete Carroll said, like, look, Larry Izzo did it. And he's like, look, that's a different guy. I don't want to be Larry Izzo. I have dignity. I'm going to the locker room. So, yeah it's worth checking out.
That's such like a peak, like football guy thing, right? Like take a shit on the sideline. Like, get out of here, dude. Like, give me the cart and let's go. Like, DK, that's the optimal play, man.
To be fair, the man who was supporting it, Pete Carroll, is 71 years old. Like he lived with Larry Izzo. It's okay.
Yeah, Pete probably is pooping his pants every game on the sideline at this point.
And he can still run up like at 640. He's still fast.
It's actually amazing. I I think the Seahawks and Geno Smith are genuinely one of the best stories of the NFL.
I agree.
I was, a lot of us, but I was completely wrong on the Seahawks. Like the fact that it may have actually been Russell Wilson that came down to Pete Carroll's play calling, to be 71 years old and to adapt into 2022 NFL for whatever works best for your players. Like I love Pete Carroll. Like good for that man because they are so much fun.
He seems like a likable guy and like a player's coach. Generally, I did not love his philosophies forever, but you have to tip the cap. He's been awesome. And yeah, I was just wondering if you guys, you're not really basketball guys, but you guys know the Paul Pierce story, right? Since we're talking about DK. Yeah.
Well, hold on. No, Paul Pierce was wheelchair injury and then stood up, right? It wasn't
wheelchair injury. Like it was sold as a wheelchair injury, but he miraculously, like he pulled a Kevin Nash, like he was good to go the next night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that was bathroom related though.
That was bathroom. He confirmed it years later.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right.
This is what we talk about on week 9. Thrive, our sponsor. I'm sure is thrilled.
Yeah.
Just give it a couple weeks whenever it's Thanksgiving. Wait till you see how much we throw in the towel.
Just coasting. John, I'll let you open it up. Seattle, Arizona, dealer's choice. Go where you want to go.
All right. My job here is to talk Rich off of Kyler Murray with stats he probably is already aware of. So here we go. The Cardinals, of course, have averaged an increased 5.4 yards per play the past 2 weeks and 34 points per game since they got DeAndre Hopkins back. But I think the real story of this game, and sometimes you don't know this, Dean, sometimes I bring up high total games if only to talk people off of them, to eliminate their player pool.
I like
and
that.
That's kind of where I'm at with the Cardinals passing offense right now. Kyler Murray hasn't been in any winning tournament lineups yet this year. But at the same time, it's the Seattle's defense that's really sneaky because the last 3 games against Kyler Murray 3 weeks ago without Hopkins, but then also Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones, they've been number 1 defensive DVOA at Football Outsiders. They've allowed just 15 points per game in that span and are one of only 2 teams with a double-digit sack rate in that span. And so, I'm sorry, it wasn't Jalen Hurts, it was Justin Herbert. And so against good competition, I actually think these young guys, who I think is the best draft class of 2022 in the Seahawks, I think they're just finally clicking as well. And given that we saw how Geno Smith performed against the Cardinals, they blitzed him on over 40% of dropbacks, and they are running the second highest blitz rate in the league. That's not surprising, but he only averaged 6.2 yards per attempt. Didn't throw a touchdown against the blitz against him. Has only thrown 3 touchdowns actually against the blitz all year. He has the second highest completion rate against the blitz on the season among all quarterbacks, but that's because he really is just dumping the ball off really quickly because he's been an intelligent quarterback. And so overall, I think this could be a lower scoring game and go under the total. And so I'm not as high on the passing attacks as I think a lot of people might be.
You like Walker and Connor, or we're not sure what Connor's going to be back on.
I still love Ken Walker. I'm still going to play Ken Walker. So it's an amazing spot.
How about you, Rich? Do you agree? You think this number's a little bit too high as far as the total?
Yeah, it's an interesting game because, we were here, a couple weeks ago, and it was over 50-point total, and the Cardinals didn't even score an offensive touchdown, and I want to say Seattle scored 1 touchdown in that game. Definitely underwhelmed. I mean, that's been the Cardinals kind of MO the whole season. They've been better since they've gotten Hopkins back. Obviously, a little small sample. Last week I had one of my best lineups was actually a Kyler double. That was one thing that kind of saved me a little bit on the week. But it is kind of a tricky matchup because, Seattle's been hot the past 3 weeks. It kind of started in this game where we were kind of picking on them weekly and things started to come together. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. They're disrupting a lot of plays. Opponents have only scored on 20% of their drives the past 3 weeks. That's second lowest rate in the NFL. And we're still anytime we don't put faith in the Cardinals offense, it's always kind of sketchy, right? You look at when these teams played a few weeks ago, they pressured Kyler Murray in 34% of his dropbacks. That's been kind of one of his things the entire season. Against pressure this season, Kyler Murray is 36 in the NFL in completion rate. He's averaging just 3.4 yards per pass attempt under pressure. Only Zach Wilson is worse in the NFL. You're getting that Hopkins kind of security blanket run out. He wasn't there in this game, but also the dynamic for that is pretty interesting this game because after we saw Hopkins play on Thursday night 2 weeks ago, and he's moving all over the field, they were immediately right back to just isolating him out at left boundary wide receiver last week. Cliff, this is the stuff Cliff does all the time. It's so frustrating because he has something that clearly works. and then just goes away from it. And obviously didn't hurt DeAndre Hopkins' stat line. That was completely fine because, listen, he's going to get targeted no matter where the hell he lines up. But we're going to want him to move around the field a little bit more this week because Seattle is absolutely smothering dudes on the outside. This has been a thing the entire season. I mean, they're 5th in yards per target to opposing boundary receivers, 7th in catch rate. They've allowed just 2 touchdowns to opposing boundary receivers. So you're definitely going to get the targets you pay for at DeAndre Hopkins. But we would love some rational coaching because this would be a matchup to kind of move him around like he did 2 weeks ago. And we can't ever count on that with Cliff Kingsbury. Like he does like head scratching things sometimes. And that's kind of like a really frustrating kind of run out. But if they are going to line up, Hopkins out at left wide receiver, it does give Rondale Moore a shot again to contribute. We saw him play in the slot again more. And it wasn't Robbie Anderson playing more last week. It was them getting AJ Green on the field for a little bit more than he was the past 2 weeks. Robbie Anderson is still kind of shadow realm. I don't know if he's picked up any plays or what, but he hardly played at all. Again, even having the long mini bye to like get on the field, he didn't play at all last week. So Rondale looks like the dude, like as the just clear wide receiver too. If they're shorthanded, they're going to move him outside. If they have their full allotment of guys, they're going to move him inside. So he is just like the secondary target. And Daigle's brought this up a few times too, but we now have a sample going back last year, 153 pass routes Zach Ertz has run with DeAndre Hopkins on the field. He has a 15% team target share, and he's been targeted on just 13.7% of those routes. On 573 routes with DeAndre Hopkins off the field, he has a 24% team target share and is targeted on 21.6% of his routes. Night and day difference. And Zach Ertz is a dude that needs volume. He's averaging 8.5 yards per catch. We talked about this like Amon Ra a little bit ago. Like if you're going to be like a puddle jumper, you have to get a lot of targets or you have to score a touchdown. He did score a touchdown for us last week. But Zach Ertz is the type of player, like he needs a lot of targets. And when DeAndre Hopkins is playing, he ain't getting a lot of targets.
All these like 3 and 4K tight ends, and he's 5K. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless he, like you said, falls in the end zone once or twice. I suppose there's really no way of predicting that. And like you said, Robbie Anderson went from 18% snaps in week 7 to 9% in week 8. Hopkins on the field for every single play, more 99%. So and then Green, like you said, jumped in, took 47% of the plays. I guess you got to see what you have in AJ Green at this point. Shout out Greg Dortch, 26% of snaps. Is your favorite play in this game the same as John's? It's Walker, I assume?
I do like Walker, but even he's like pretty interesting now that his price has gone up. I guess, isolate if you're game stacking this, you don't really care what the floor run out is. But, we now have seen you're getting all the touches, but he's very volatile, and this is who he was in college anyway, so it's not like a huge deal. But he's dead last among all running backs in success rate per run. He's 26% of his carries have failed to gain yards. That's 44th out of 46 running backs at 50 or more carries. But 17% have gained 10 or more yards. That's 8th highest. When these teams played a few weeks ago, 33% of his carries failed to gain any yardage, but then he had carries of 34, 21 yards, and then an 11-yard touchdown that kind of just stacks up his line. So like the only reason it's a concern for like with the salary rising is because he's not catching any passes, right? That's the thing. Like he doesn't, like you look at the run out last week, 18 carries, 51 yards, doesn't pop. He gets the touchdown, but even with the touchdown, he doesn't hit because he's got, another one. He's 9 catches for 28 yards on the season. So like there is a low floor with him. If you don't get those like that run out, and like I said, that's who he was in college. It's not a big deal. It doesn't make you run away from him. Like you've got him in season long, you start him, you don't care. But when you're talking about like investing like a huge chunk of your portfolio into him, at where his prices jump to now, there is a little bit more fragility to it than it was when he was 5'8" and was hanging out down there.
John, you got anything else here as far as Seahawks Cardinals?
No, honestly, I think Rich touched on everything. We are kind of in limbo right now with the Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf injuries. Both did not practice on Wednesday. It doesn't matter since, we went into last week thinking DK Metcalf wasn't even going to play. And he just literally showed up as their number one receiver yet again. So, lots of touch and go here. But again, I think this is a game I will be less on than a lot of other contests.
All right. Producer Steve, throw the Thrive, throw it up on the old YouTube, show the props up to Rich and John. They're going to help us pick some winners in a second. If you guys are not aware, Join in on the Fantasy Prop Act Fantasy if you're not aware of them. It's an easy-to-play, no salary cap style contest. Revolves around over-under style player props. Each prop has a fantasy score associated with the prop. The riskier the prop, the higher the fantasy score. Rack up the most points for your share of the prize pool. We got a nice, sweet deposit bonus for y'all. It's Grinders, GRINDERS. That is the promo code. Sign up for a deposit bonus up to $250, as well as free tickets. How do those free tickets work? If you deposit between $100 and $499, you get 2 free $20 contest tickets. If you deposit $500 or more, you get 6 free individual $20 contest tickets. You want to check out the review page on RotoGrinders for Thrive Fantasy in the description for more information. And they have a lot of stuff, by the way, as far as if you go to their lobby, you can bet props like NBA, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC, cricket, LOL. I don't have any LOL takes. Do you guys LOL? You guys know what LOL is?
I don't.
You're not prepared for LOL takes, Jeff?
Well, I mean, I'm a super nerd. Like I'm a gamer to that, but I don't do the DraftKings LOL.
I thought you meant LOL as in the text. I was like, I know what that is. I'm smart.
The League of Legends. Yeah, I know Faker. That's one of the players I'm aware of. I don't know anything else.
Dean, are you a LOL haha guy?
Oh no, I don't know because it's like 90% of people are lying.
Do you text? You know.
What is texting? I never type LOL. Essentially, that's not on my repertoire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's quick and to the point. It's one less letter than haha, so that's what I use. But I understand it could be viewed as something different to other people.
Have you ever responded to a text with just LOL, nothing else? LOL a la carte?
No, but it may offend people. I'm a big thumbs up guy. Like, yep, I see it. Good luck to your day, and then move on. Big thumbs up.
And that means that's a nice way of saying I'm done with this conversation. That's it. We're done.
Honestly, yeah, that's kind of what it is. Yeah, like I'll call if we need to talk. Otherwise, thumbs up. Good luck in life. See you later.
That's like liking a tweet on Twitter, right? Like you're having a conversation.
What I do too.
It's like this conversation's over. I liked your tweet.
We should have likes for emails. Is that a thing? Has anybody created that?
No, we just ignore them.
Rich, you don't do that, Rich. You would never just respond with LOL and that's that. You can't.
No, I probably have a time or two, but I'm more of like a GIF responder. Definitely a GIF responder.
That works. All right. So what we're doing is I picked. They have a lot of contests as well. With the big contest this Sunday, $100,000 total prize pool. I believe it's $20K up top. There's 20 props. You got to pick 10. You got to take a stand on 10 of them. Pick over, pick under. Depending on how ambitious you may or may not be, that's how many points you get. And John, let's get it started. Give me a pick or two. Again, feel as ambitious as you want to be. We talked about Derrick Henry last week, who somehow was like even money. It was like 100 points either way for like 100 yards or something like that. We lock button that one last week. Give me something similar. Give me the lock of the week. What do you have for me?
Can we go down a little bit? Oh, there you go. I didn't see the rest, admittedly. Oh gosh, rush yards for Fournette. That's ugly. Okay. I'll go 23.5 over completions. Patrick Mahomes. Titans have faced a bottom 5 rate of runs in the league because teams literally know they can just throw on them at will. I'm sure that's what the Chiefs will do as well. Mm-hmm. It's only a 20-point difference too. So I'll go over Mahomes. And then that's too big of a difference with Kelsey receiving yards at the bottom. Gosh, they're tough this week, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean,
usually I can look and just, we might not have Keenan Allen. So Austin Eckler, rush yards, receiving yards over 92.5 even points. I'll go over that.
Yeah, I like that too. And if you like Herbert, you can you can pair those as well. A little correlation. Herbert over 290.5 pass yards and rushing yards for 105 points.
Oh, you get a 40-point difference though for. Wait, hold on, 40. I'm good at math. That's my job. 30-point difference for Amon-Ra St. Brown scoring a touchdown. I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown, throw that on there as well.
There you go.
For all the reasons we talked about. Just one touchdown is all he needs.
It's all you need. Rich, what do you got?
Yeah, there's a couple on there. Like I like the Kirk Cousins under the interceptions. Washington has just 2 interceptions this season. So I like that one. And I like the Brady passing yards for the reasons like Daigle said. Well, Brady he's hit this number, I believe, in 4 of his past 5 games because they can't run the football. It's you can even take the. I mean, honestly, it's only 90 points for the Fournette. So like 62.5 rushing yards. When the hell has he hit? He might not. He hasn't hit that since week 1.
They haven't totaled more than 75 rushing yards as a team since week 1.
Yeah, everyone is excited because like he ran for like 120 the first week.
Yeah, they just ran at Trevon Diggs the whole time,
and then has done nothing since. But I do like that Cousins one for sure. You get Tyreek 86.5. Like that seems pretty solid for even money.
I wonder what people are going to do with that game because obviously Miami coming off, the matchup against Detroit, which is a nut matchup, and Chicago. I guess their defense got weakened to some degree with some trades.
Oh yeah.
This is also expected to be a slow game for what it's worth.
Well, we talked about the Dolphins though even last week. Like the Dolphins are a team. If you watch the Dolphins, they run motion on every single play. There's a dude moving, and it's why the play clocks run so low. There's guys moving every single play.
Yeah, which kind of like the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. I guess the Rodgers thing is not necessarily movement.
No, Rodgers wants to stand there and look at the defense for 30 seconds and then try to draw someone off sides or get 12 men on the field. It's like his hallmark, like caught you with 12 men on the field. Like, people are so excited about those 5 yards. Like Romo starts going nuts. Like, but yeah, the Dolphins it's just schematically, like they motion so many guys.
Yeah, that puts them in a nice position, obviously, when they finally snap the ball. Do want to mention, once again, if you're not aware, the Thrive promo code, it's Grinders. When you sign up for a deposit bonus, up to $250. That's GRINDERS. Give you some winners, get you all started. Let's run it back. Hey, Rich, you said you like some quarterbacks this week. Josh Allen's throwing some footballs on the main slate. I assume you like him. Who else? Well, tell me you like Josh Allen, I assume. And then
Sure.
Who else do you like?
Yeah, I like Josh Allen. Lawrence I like a lot, but then a few of those guys I got. Tua, love Tua. Tua is only Patrick Mahomes has more passing points per attempt than Tua in the NFL. The Bears are 28th in pressure rate. They traded Robert Quinn 2 weeks ago. They just got rid of Roquan Smith. Tua throws over the middle field more than any quarterback in the NFL, so losing Roquan is actually a pretty big deal in this game. The Bears don't allow a lot of passing points, but they've only faced 2 good quarterbacks all year, and both of those guys hit over 20 fantasy points against them, Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott. The other guys they faced were Trey Lance, Aaron Rodgers, Davis Mills, Daniel Jones, Bailey Zappi, Carson Wentz. None of those guys are very good. We talked about Herbert. Herbert, I think, is a really good play. How about across from Tua? Maybe not on Fanduel, but DraftKings, Justin Fields is 5,300.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot because you're now getting passing with the rushing, and you're getting some pushback from the Bears. Like the Bears have actually been like a decent offense the past few weeks. And if the Bears are going to still score in like the mid-20s, like that is pretty huge. It's a pretty huge development for fantasy on a lot of levels, because he's now Justin Fields is now averaging 11.3 passing points per game over the past 4 weeks. You're like, 11.3 passing points, but he's also averaging those 8 rushing points that we were getting the first month of the season. The first month of the year, he only had 18 passing points in total over those 4 weeks. And the Dolphins are not a pass defense to be scared of. Obviously, you add Bradley Chubb, but they're a team that struggled to get after the quarterback. They've struggled to really kind of defend anyone this season. And then Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is having one of the weirdest seasons. Like he's having like statistically his worst season ever. Like he's got career lows in a number of categories, but all he keeps doing is churning out QB1 games for fantasy. He's been a QB1 in 5 of his 7 games played this season, and he gets another great matchup again against the Washington defense that's 25th or lower in yards per pass attempt allowed, touchdown rate, passing points allowed per attempt, like just another really good spot. So combined with the guys we talked about, plus those guys, I mean, it's a pretty dense QB field this week.
What do you make of the Claypool trade for Chicago? Is that going to affect much this week, or this is kind of just sort of a showing up, and they're probably not going to go full out with Claypool, I assume, week 1. I imagine it takes a while to learn the plays. Well, what are we speculating here? And long term, do you like that trade for Chicago?
I mean, sure. He's there. That means that they're not throwing passes to N'Keal Harry or Equanimeous St. Brown. So by default,
it's a good point.
By default, I mean, it's probably one of these things like, is it going to be great for Chase Claypool? No, because Chase Claypool on the Steelers ran 80 more pass routes than any Bears guys run all year. He actually has more targets this year than Darnell Mooney, like coming in the trade. So like probably isn't good for his prospects, but it gives Justin Fields a better player on the football field. So like, yeah.
You mentioned Romo. I saw a clip of Romo calling Claypool out for like doing a bad job of the route. I don't know if you saw that or.
So Claypool's not like, he's not like a polished dude. Like that's not his game.
Yeah, athletically skilled for sure. John, feel free to give your thoughts there, and on Claypool with Chicago and just any quarterback this week that Rich knocked a bunch out, but add on or throw some new names in the pool if you want.
No, honestly, Rich took them all. We took them all as well. Like maybe I'm curious to see what Josh Allen comes in as. Even in negative game script, Josh Allen has gotten there every single week. Last week, it came down to what looked like just giving up in the second half against the Packers when they already had 2-score lead. And then other than that, the only time he went for under 300 yards with such a big lead was against the Ravens, and that was that rainy game. So honestly, like if the Bills are really needed for 2.5 quarters, Josh Allen can still be a top 5 quarterback. So I'll be curious to see what his percentage will be against the Jets. Other than that, honestly, I think Rich has them all.
You got a favorite pairing with Josh Allen? Anything different, or is it's like Diggs and salary matters all of a sudden? Then maybe you can't get Diggs. But...
It'd still be the same garbage. It's what everyone else is playing. It's Diggs and Gabriel Davis. Dawson Knox scored a touchdown, but like he's only running 70% of routes whenever they hang around. They've only hung around. Well, whenever they need opponents to hang around, they only haven't blown opponents out in like 2 games this year. So and Dawson Knox has been injured, so it's really hard to get a gauge on when he's at full speed. But it probably won't be this week, honestly, since Zach Wilson's still averaging less than 2 yards per attempt under pressure.
Plus, this thing is real with the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen now he's targeted running backs at a career high rate. Like they have not made this a secret. Like they want to throw the football to running backs, and they've been doing it all year. And the tight end targets are way down because of it. And Knox has just been kind of mushed because of it. And then they go and trade for Nyheim Hines, right?
Yeah.
Like they this is like a point of emphasis for them. I don't know why. I don't know really the reason for it, but like they have beat this thing down. Like have not made it a secret that they want some kind of guy in that role, like that satellite back role. We thought when they drafted James Cook he'd be in that role. Now they're trading for Nyheim Hines. Like for some reason they want this to be a thing in their offense.
It feels like 1 of 10 guys can score for Buffalo is the problem as far as trying to figure out the pairings. Is Hines going to play? We don't know. Is he going to play this week?
I assume like all these guys dress, but like how much they play is a thing. And then even with Hines, the run out, like even big picture, like what exactly are we getting from Hines? Like what, I mean, it was a very unique trade from a top down view. It's very tough to kind of gauge what the hell's going on here.
I think they keep preparing for 2 safeties, 2 and 3 safeties against them, and they're very well prepared for that. Josh Allen is 25th in the league and throws 20 yards downfield. But when he does it, he's averaging 21 yards per attempt. Like anytime he throws downfield, it's Josh Allen. Like he's great at it, but they don't need to because they're so efficient underneath, and they give themselves another player to do that. I just think it makes Devin Singletary more or less like a touchdown or bust option, and Nyheim Hines probably provides more weekly value, but even that's not really a lot of value. Like it's like the Rams backfield. Everyone's trying to pick the player who's going to make an impact. It's like actually Ronnie Rivers, led the team with 12 touches, 52% of their backfield touches. He was the RB 48 on the week because it just doesn't matter. As long as there's 3 players involved, that backfield doesn't matter at all.
It's interesting to see how the meta defensively has like come along, but the teams were already playing the Bills and Chiefs like that prior to this year, and they recalibrated their offenses to play against that this year, and they look awesome. Like in this, so it's really, really kind of interesting. They had a leg up for how teams were defending them, and then the rest of the league tried to basically copycat that against everybody else, and we've seen offenses kind of struggle to adjust, but the Bills and Chiefs were already facing it. So like they had a counter punch dialed in already.
You would think young Joka helps still the Chiefs, but we'll see what happens.
John, give me some running backs you like.
Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick was out practice Wednesday. We'll see what happens, but nonetheless, still out snapped Brian Robinson this past week and had a season high 22% target share. So if we're going to see 7 targets now in this role, as they now understand the prospect Brian Robinson is basically just a goal line plotter. I will be willing to play Antonio Gibson on DraftKings in particular at cheap. Austin Eckler, I think, is pretty easy. Everyone will probably get there, but you can argue his mid 8K price on DraftKings still isn't enough, considering he's averaged 8.5 catches per game since week 2. And Keenan Allen, again, is year to year with his hamstring injury, so we don't know if he'll play or not. And then Rich hinted at it that we've seen every running back who's been traded so far limited. James Robinson played 22% of snaps. Christian McCaffrey played 28% of snaps. And so although it's a good spot for the Dolphins passing attack, like it's also, if you want to save salary, Raheem Mostert is kind of sneaky good given how poorly the Bears have performed against the run. That's why we played Tony Pollard. Outside of him just being Tony Pollard, Bears have allowed now a league high in rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs and 4.8 yards per carry as well. Jeff Wilson's an interesting anomaly, maybe, since he's familiar with Mike McDaniel. The Dolphins have 51% of their carries, running back carries, have come from 21 personnel. Jeff Wilson has the third most carries from 21 personnel this year because the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan have been running the same system basically. So maybe Wilson gets to speed quicker. But honestly, like with Chase Edmonds gone, if Wilson's slow, we have to read the tea leaves. It's the cheapest Raheem Mostert will basically ever be, and the best opportunity he'll have the rest of the year. So I may get there while following the news.
You think that he's going to separate himself, Mostert, from Wilson? It's like a 1 and 1A kind of thing eventually? I'm not saying
this is strictly an anomaly for this week as Jeff Wilson gets to speed. Rest of season, I bet it's more of a timeshare, and Mostert's ceiling is capped.
That's kind of what I feel like too. Like McDonald traded for him for a reason. Rich, what do you have as far? Feel free to give your thoughts on those guys. Anything else you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I had Mostert kind of on the short list. The only really other guy, as dense as, like I said, QB was, running backs kind of thinner this week. Obviously, we're missing a lot of really good players this week. No Nick Chubb, no Saquon, no Christian McCaffrey. Guys on bye. Thankfully, no Najee Harris. So we're really thin this week at running back, and we kind of talked about a lot of the guys through the course of our games. And obviously, you can always pay for Austin Eckler. The only other guy that kind of still stands out is Ramondre. Even with Damian Harris being back, it looks like he's still going to be like a 60-40 split, like in favor of Ramondre. He's catching a ton of passes. He's another guy, DraftKings. Why is he not more expensive? The site that rewards reception points.
Yeah.
The site that rewards, he has 15 catches the past 2 games. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? He's 6,200.
He hit my cap. I put a cap on it as far as some optimals, and he hit the cap. By the way,
yeah. I mean, it's another guy, like the site that rewards catch points.
I don't think I know who Michael Bandy is, but he's hitting
just delete him from your pool.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
This is super early, and I'm like, why is Michael Bandy at 3.5K projected?
Yeah, you can play DeAndre Carter. Like, if you want to play Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter, like, that's cool.
Okay, so Bandy is just cross him off the list.
He's not a real player. He's a creative player in Madden.
The Chargers,
He's an NPC, Dean. You can't play him.
Chargers offense is probably popping the most right now, right, Dean, on projections?
I think it's the Seahawks.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? It depends which, to be honest. Like if I use the RG stuff, it's not the Seahawks. If I use Cardi stuff, it's the Seahawks. And again, it's Wednesday night, so grain of salt, just sort of like
because it is a good spot for the Chargers passing game. But then again, like how many times has it been a good spot for the Chargers passing game? And Justin Herbert's still 25th in depth of target. The volume's there, but the touchdowns still aren't there. So I don't know. I don't think I'm on the Chargers offense this week, but it is Justin Herbert, and given how the injuries shake out, everyone else popping in the models currently.
Like Cooper Kupp is getting forced in. So like, that's the reason why Bandy's, because, salary game. And they like Cooper Kupp this week. So that's what's going on here. And we'll see. And somebody like a Bandy or some other cheap player that just kind of pops up.
Not Bandy. Never Bandy.
NPC.
Never Bandy. I don't know who he is. Has he played this year?
Yeah, he came in.
He's got a couple good catches.
Yeah, he came in the Monday night game when Palmer had the concussion, and then they allowed him to come back in. Bandy came in drew a couple targets at that point.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like vaguely familiar, but I can't pick him out in the lineup, I don't think. But all right, if not Bandy, Rich, who do we like as far as receivers this week?
Yeah, I mean, I like Chris Godwin a lot. He has double-digit targets in his past 3 games. He still doesn't have a touchdown. Eventually, he's going to score a touchdown. We keep saying maybe Brady will throw touchdowns too, and that hasn't happened. But yeah, I mean, over 26% of team targets the past 3 games. Where I really like him is him and Mike Evans have really bipolar splits versus man and zone coverage, and the Rams play zone coverage more than any team in the NFL. Only Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp have been targeted at a higher rate per route run against zone than Chris Godwin. He's still pretty affordable. I think people played him a little bit, and then they're like, he didn't really get there those weeks. So we've kind of just pressed on to other guys, but he's one of those tweener guys that I do really like a lot. I do like the Chargers guys. Obviously, we'll see if AJ Terrell ends up playing in that game. They did trade for Rashard Fenton as well. The Falcons did, to kind of try to shore up just having some bodies on the field. But the Chargers are going to drop back and throw. The Chargers can't run the football either. They're another one of these good, we want to be presumably good offenses, but they're one-dimensional. They can't run the football on any level. So they're going to be throwing a lot. I mean, Herbert has over 50 dropbacks the past 2 games. He was not out there, so we get a lot of bleed outs. DeAndre Carter, I think, is 4,300. Josh Palmer is 51. Gerald Everett is, I think, a fantastic tight end play, especially in the context of the slate. Atlanta is also really terrible at guarding tight ends. So, yeah, all those ancillary Chargers guys, I think, are going to fill a lot of rosters inherently just because they're so cheap. And if Keenan Allen doesn't play, these guys are going to go. Josh Palmer is going to go real nuts in terms of ownership if Keenan doesn't play.
And
the Bengals guys too, man. That's a flop lag duo. There's no way those dudes are going to just have games like that, like they did on Monday night.
Is that just the line? Is that what's going on there? Because Cincinnati, it's the line, and I guess Burrow, and I've heard him talk about this before. He doesn't care about taking sacks. He's like, what? Especially on 3rd down. He's like, what's the big deal? I'm just going to punt it anyway. But does he hold on to the ball a little too long, or it feels like he's always under pressure and always scrambling? And it was a disaster Monday night, obviously.
It was rough, and and even on the other side of the ball, they just had so many defensive injuries it caught up to them. So that game actually could be sneaky fun too. If Philip Walker continues to play like he's played the last 2 weeks, that game could be sneaky. Because the Bengals, they just have a lot of defensive injuries. But yeah, I think Tyler Boyd's a really good play. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I do like Tyler Boyd a lot.
They pumped him up a little bit, up to 6'3". I feel like he hasn't been that high, I want to say, all season long. But speaking of that game, John, I think it was you that was telling me, I was talking Deontay Foreman down a little bit last week just because I thought the running backs were so good. And it's not that much more, to get away from him. And you're like, watch out for Foreman. That guy, man, he crushed last week, and he was obviously awesome. And you got me onto some Foreman, so thank you for that.
Well, it was, I appreciate it, but it was also only because Chuba Hubbard was out. Chuba Hubbard was practicing Wednesday. Foreman wasn't. And we still question, again, McCaffrey was only the RB3 in points per game with a backfield to himself. What's going to happen when both Hubbard and Foreman are available? That's probably a reason to stay away from Foreman this week. So we'll see what happens. But like Reeves mentioned, Bengals defense banged up. It's an amazing spot for DJ Moore. He's actually moved around the field more with Robbie Anderson out the past 2 games, running an increased 43% of his routes from the slot. And that's where Cincinnati has been beaten for a league high 10.8 yards per target from the slot this year. So DJ Moore, an amazing spot. And then really the only other player to add on is Terry McLaurin, because the Vikings have allowed the 2nd highest rate of explosive passing plays this year. And McLaurin has a 25% target share from Taylor Heineke compared to 15% from Carson Wentz. So McLaurin's going to get the ball. Jahan Dotson missed another practice today. I bet he's out again. So pretty condensed target tree. So I like McLaurin quite a bit.
Pretty good price as well. 5.9 on DK. I don't mind that at all.
It's that they're just worried about the Rainmakers dead fellas contest. They don't care about the DFS salaries anymore.
Are you playing the Rainmakers? Have you dabbled in this at all, or you reference?
No. Like everything else in crypto world, I'm very familiar with what the whales do, but I don't play Rainmakers now.
There is some contests. I'm sure you guys noticed this on DK where they backload if you finish 1,000th, you get a Rainmaker or a Rainmaker pack. And I was trying to figure out, I'm like, is that taking away from the equity of the entire contest, or is that a freebie? They just want to wet your beak, just they're giving them away. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, but I also know when you play Devontae Adams over Josh Jacobs, you can't win that pack. So that's as far as my knowledge goes.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, and like I want to just like give me the min cash. I don't want your pack. Let me get $30 or whatever. I mean, look, it's great if you're into that world, have at it, enjoy yourself. But my understanding is you kind of sort of have to be all in or all out on that, because if you're just dabbling, it's you
build lineups with your cards. So so Rich, I don't know if you play, but it's like Madden. I know you play. I don't play Madden.
Yeah, like Ultimate Team.
Ultimate Team. Yeah, I don't play Madden Ultimate Team, but I know what it is because of you and your son. So like it's basically like that, except with real money.
Okay.
There you go. He now understands. Yeah.
All right.
Let's knock out some tight ends. We kind of referenced them some throughout the show. Pitts did something last week. He kind of did a thing, right? And again, we talked about tight end, the opportunity cost being pretty low with the absence of Andrews. If he plays or if he doesn't play, it doesn't matter because he's not in the main slate. Kelsey, again, not in the main slate. We don't know about Waller. Is Kittle not in the main slate? Yeah, no Sam Fran.
No, so they're off.
Who's the highest, no Goddard? Yeah. Who's the highest projected tight end, like just raw points?
Is it? Oh, raw points.
It's hold on. Let me get
probably Ertz or Pitts, right?
It's. I think I have Ertz. It's got to be wrong. I mean, it's wrong though.
I got Kyle Pitts.
Oh, well, whatever.
Oh boy.
It's a thin week out there. If you're not punting, like I said, I think Gerald Everett's my favorite guy if you can fit him in. Obviously, he's not the cheapest. Even on DraftKings, he's 48, so it's not like he's super cheap. But I think he's the best play of all the guys. And I think Evan Ingram is fantastic play on DraftKings.
Yeah.
When you pair everything up, we know, like if you were just to project targets for all these guys in this DraftKings list, when you look like at this, like Evan Ingram is going to out target all these fools that are above him.
We saw Cole Kmet get his first touchdown like a year and a half or something.
Don't do it, Dean. Don't do it.
I just thought it was worth acknowledging. You got anything, John, here as far as tight ends?
Nah, there's no Tanner Hudson of week 9.
All these guys are bad. Pick one.
Yeah, it's like Hayden Hurst is the only one I can get on. Like the Bengals actually didn't run as many 11 personnel sets as we thought they would with Mike Thomas as their poor man's Tyler Boyd. They instead just leaned on Boyd, Higgins, and Hayden Hurst instead, which actually, like Rich was pointing out, makes the target tree much more condensed, which is why the Bengals receivers are an amazing play this week. So, yeah, there's honestly nothing much out there. Gerald Everett and Evan Ingram were at the top of my list as well. I would just note that, the Chargers have run the 5th highest rate of, man coverage, and Kyle Pitts, only 18% of his targets have come against man coverage this year. The rest have come against zone. I genuinely don't think his 32% target share from last week matters. It comes down to, are the Falcons going to throw the ball 28 times again? But given how easily you can run on the Chargers, I think we just get old Arthur Smith and just have him running the ball a lot again.
Yeah, that game is interesting because what both teams kind of really want to do on offense are what both defenses are completely horrible at doing. Because the Chargers only throw within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and the Falcons are one of the worst defenses on short and intermediate throws, and the Chargers can't stop the run. So it just made up. It just made out for both these teams to kind of do what they want to do inherently.
But that Atlanta backfield could probably be a mess with Patterson, and who knows? He said he's 90%. I think that was the quote. Which, when you say you're 90%, you're not 90%, right? I think you're rounding up. Either you're 100% or you're 82 or something. I don't know. You're not 90, I don't think. Who knows? But, then Eckler might catch 12 more passes, which will be a lot of fun.
Not 90%, and also it's the fact that, the Falcons running backs don't get targets. Tyler Algier had 3 last week, but literally has 5 total since week 2. They do not throw to the running backs. Even Cordero Patterson after week 1 only had 2 total targets before he got injured. And so we're going back to the Jeff Wilson players and the Ken Walkers, the poor man's Ken Walkers, where you need rushing touchdowns. Otherwise they just won't get there.
Well, I guess that's the show. We're supposed to finish on a high note. We did not.
I actually think the theme of the show is always saying we're supposed to finish on a high note, but we will not.
Yeah, that's definitely
that's more consistent than finishing on a high note.
We're gonna do tight ends and then receivers next week, I think.
Yes, actually, that's a good call.
That's the strategy. Just so because otherwise, and then we'll close on Michael Bandy. I think that's how we'll close it out.
Okay, calm down.
NPC Michael Bandy.
Rich, tell the people where they can find you as far as all the socials.
Yeah, or at Lord Reeves on Twitter, sharpfootballanalysis.com. We're halfway point this week, guys.
There you go. Week 9's down. Well, yeah, 18. We might do playoffs, Rich. So I don't know. The math might be a little fuzzy.
That's okay. Those are fun. Those are gravy.
John?
I can't wait for Thanksgiving short slate to do this show. It's always the best. It's always the most fun. 44.com, and also I can guarantee you that if you DM me on Twitter at @JDaigle, I can get you at least 50% off a sub. I can guarantee it because it happened last week post this show, and I got a coupon code specially made for people. So
slide in them DMs.
Half the season is left. A lot of football is left for these bags under my eyes to get even heavier. So
wait till it's dark at 5:00.
Don't remind me. I'm about to get depressed. Take the discount. Let me keep drinking old fashions depressed while you at least put money in my pocket, please. So I'll get you a code.
Fun show, boys. 9 weeks down, 9 to go. Possibly some playoffs. Possibly, well, for sure that Thanksgiving show, I assume. That was the NFL Pick 6 show sponsored by Thrive. That was Rich and John and producer Steve on behalf of RotoGrinders. I was Dean on behalf of Michael Bandy. Shout out to Michael Bandy. Broncos country. Let's ride. Win some money this week. We're out of here. Holler. Who's Michael?